If the U.S. goes protectionist, first of all, it's bad for the United States. Protectionist economies do not thrive. They lose their competitive edge. They lose their efficiency. So the first loser would be the United States. To judge by the experience of 1931, when the U.S. imposed very high tariffs in what are called the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, or the Hawley-Smoot tariffs, depending on who gets the first billing for this huge mistake. This led to a cascade of protectionism all over the world in the 1930s that was catastrophic. There was a collapse of global trade. There was a collapse of peaceful relations among countries, and there was eventually the return to world war. I hope that countries would not pursue that approach, but rather would say, well, the United States is doing damage to itself, but we're going to continue to have an open trading system among the rest. A major player in that, for example, is Europe. If Europe would blindly follow the U.S., as Europe has done in recent years on many issues, this would be a huge mistake for Europe. Maybe the fact that Trump is also threatening Europe will make Europe wake up to the fact that it is not an appendage of the United States, it's its own actor, and therefore say, we're not going to follow blindly the mistakes that the U.S. is making. Now, when it comes to China, I think that China, of course, should argue for the U.S. abiding by its commitments under the WTO, the World Trade Organization. The U.S. won't do so under Trump, most likely. So China will complain, but China practically has to find other areas of trade. And most of the world wants to trade with China, this is for sure. This is evident in the Belt and Road Initiative. This is evident in the BRICS. This is evident in China-Africa relations. This is evident in China-ASEAN relations and so forth. If the U.S. absents itself from the open trade system, there's a big world other than the U.S., and China will be the low-cost provider of many of the key technologies in the rest of the world. If the U.S. goes protectionist, by the way, the U.S. will have a harder time being competitive with China because the U.S. will produce high-cost domestic industries behind a tariff wall, but then be unable to compete with China in third markets. So I see Trump's protectionism as misguided. I'm an economist that grew up in the tradition of Adam Smith, who said that a big world market is a market that is wealthier, that is more specialized, that is more dynamic. So I would advise the U.S. not to follow this protectionist course. But if it does, I don't think it means the end of the international trading system. But it does mean that other countries should not just simply mirror what the U.S. is doing or blindly follow the U.S. path. There are winners and losers in a trade relationship. And if the political system is even rudimentarily fair, then the winners pay some taxes or do other things, and the losers end up getting better off as well, rather than closing down the whole trade relationship. If you look at the U.S. economy as a whole, it's been a huge beneficiary of China's economic rise. Not a loser, a winner. It's made a lot of people rich. It's made a lot of industries rich. It's helped to bring about the whole digital revolution, which has effectively been a partnership, not a competition. In this sense, this has been a win-win relationship and should be a win-win relationship in the future.